Welcome back, guys. This is the Abios Grand Tournament, and we're in before the second quarterfinal between RDU and Tom9. Oh, it's actually 60229. There's a mistake in numbers on the screen. And those two players were not having a easy task yesterday, right, Solvo?
Yeah, I remember RDU playing particularly well. I can't remember the exact turns, but I remember some particular lines of play that RDU went down yesterday that particularly impressed me. If you can maybe refresh my mind, I think there was a couple of really intuitive plays that he made that we didn't spot until afterwards, and then what he did made a lot of sense.
I was really impressed by the game when he was playing against the Echo Mage. He was really spot on with the overall idea about the matchup, how he should play. He was just lacking the execution during the last turn, and that was what did cost him the game.
Wait, that was Tice, right?
No, that was RDU.
That was RDU?
Yes, that was RDU with his patron versus the Echo Mage, and that was like the only thing that he was.
Yeah, you're right.
Yesterday.
Yeah, my mistake. Yeah.
But he was playing in particularly well apart from that one mistake. But Tom had a really exceptional opponent, which was Naria, but he managed to do a 3-0. That was the only second sweep of the day, because the last one was Stansivka on Nuskaka. And now we'll see those players battle against each other. If I recall correctly, Tom was playing Patron because we talked about it extensively.
No, Tom wasn't playing Patron. That's why we were talking about it, because we felt that he might have dropped it, feeling maybe not as comfortable with the deck as he used to be.
Right. But we talked about his strategy of how he is playing the Patron as a tempo deck.
Yeah.
Which we not necessarily agree with, right? Because why would you play your Flooding Berserker always on 10-3?
Yeah.
So it seems like a really odd idea how to play the deck, but he's not sporting this deck in this tournament. And so we got the classes, the same classes as yesterday. RDU is playing Druid, Paladin, and Warrior, of course, and Tom is bringing a Hunter, Mage, and Paladin. If I recall, the Paladin was a mid-range one.
I think you might be right there. Yeah, I think the Mage was definitely a tempo Mage, and the Paladin was a mid-range. Yeah, I think you're correct.
Yeah, so cool stuff, right? I like really casting the Mage in general, because there are some situations like we just saw in the previous game between Orange and ECOP. If someone didn't see that, you should definitely go to the VODs after the tournament and check that game, because it was really insane. Maybe not as insane as yesterday's Dark Bargain from Spellslinger. Yeah.
It was up there though, right? The fact there was 2 layers of random, the Spellslinger getting the Mind Vision, which is then random again, like that sort of compounds the odds by an order of magnitude. So pretty crazy stuff from the Mage, but as we know, the casino always wins and you always come out on top. So it is a deck that has been doing really well recently though, right? It kind of came out of nowhere around the BlizzCon top 40s for EU and NA that were broadcast, and suddenly a lot of players had decided to bring it. Players like Firebat, who we talked about yesterday, does really extensive testing on his decks. And kind of the casters for that tournament were surprised to see as much Tempo Mage in people's lineups as they did. And Tempo Mage performed really well in those qualifiers and has continued to perform well in the Abios tournament today. So really looks like a deck that's making a strong impact on the tournament meta right now.
One thing about this deck I really dislike when I'm playing it, it's kind of unstable when it comes to draws.
It's kind of unstable, though?
Yes, it's literally unstable.
Yeah.
Also. But yeah, not consistent, I would say, when it comes to draws. I mean, there's a lot of spells you can draw in your opening hand, which are not exactly the cards you want to see.
Right.
Because it's a minion-based deck, and the spells are just like a support role.
Yeah.
For your main objective, which is to keep minion on the board and gain tempo by cheap spells, which are top decked and just used to maintain board control. Right.
So going into game 1 now, looks like we have Tom on the mid-range Hunter and RDU on Druid. This is classically a very good matchup for the mid-range Hunter, and we see Tom is choosing to include a Ram Wrangler in his deck. How do you feel in general about Ram Wrangler? Because it's a card that I've had many discussions with a lot of players in my sort of practice circle with.
I love it when it comes to casting and streaming and be a viewer.
Sure.
Of this, like to just witness the randomness of this card. When it comes to be playing this card, sorry, I don't think I like this card at all. It's swingy. It's a good ward to start with, I would say. It can be backbreaking for your opponent, or it can be backbreaking for yourself. Because if you can get like a parrot, 1/1 parrot, or even a river crocus is not that great when you think about a 5-mana which you can just play on 10/5, right?
Yep.
A loader would be better in most of the situations. Can be more impactful in the game. But at the same time, if you get a Savannah Highmane on 10/4 because you just coined out a Ram Wrangler, right? Or a King Crush, well, you know, those games are usually won by a hunter.
Yeah, actually, just to go into monk stats land here for a while, I actually did the breakdown of Ram Wrangler just for my own personal satisfaction, and the average beast is actually 3.3, 3.7.
3.3, 3.7. That's actually a lot.
So, yeah, and then on top of that, there's 38 beasts, and 18 of them have beneficial effects like stealth or taunt or death rattle or something like that. But like what that doesn't factor in is when you don't have a beast on the board. Ram Wrangler essentially summons a 0/0, right? It just doesn't work. Yeah. So I'm still not convinced on the card, but yeah, the overall value when it hits is almost, consistently pretty damn high. So yeah, I think the card is reasonable, but anyway, getting back to the matchup here, the Hunter...
Oh, did you see that?
Whoa!
Did you see that?
Well, okay, so in a lot of situations, a Flame Tongue Tome here will be very nice with this Force of Nature, but it's completely irrelevant on this board, and far more important is the fact that the Piloted Shredder just got sniped down by 3 consecutive knives.
What were the odds of that happening? Wait, there were 4 minions and a character on board. So that's like 3 times 1 to 5?
25, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
5 times 5 times 5, 1 in 125.
That's actually really terrible for RDU.
Yep.
And look at that.
That is one way of putting it, yeah.
RDU is now being pushed to use Swipe this turn, and he can't follow it up by a minion. He can't play a Druid of the Claw. He can't play a Sylvanas, because those are being traded away by the board. And Tom has a follow-up with Savannah Highmane.
Yeah, that's the thing. If he does swipe here, swipe is just potentially game-losing because of the follow-up Highmane. He has the Sylvanas to come down and challenge the Highmane afterwards, but honestly, at that point, it's just too late, right? The Highmane is going to hit face, it's going to put him down to 10, it's just going to be so hard for him to climb back onto the board from that point. And Midrange Hunter just has plays for days here with his hand. He has the Shredder to follow up the Highmane later if he wants to, so... Empty board, turn 6, Highmane for Midrange Hunter. This is the absolute dream. So Tom just goes ahead and slams it.
That's just absolutely terrible for RDU. Double Savage Roar in hand, not necessarily what you want to see at this point of the game. I mean, you have the Big Game Hunter, so if Tom only plays 1 minion with no Death Rattle effect, you can snipe your own Sylvanas to take the control of the Savannah Highmane.
Yeah, I think we are going to see the Ram Wrangler Snake Trap here, which really lowers the odds of the Sylvanas stealing anything relevant. There's 3 nice minions on board, but the board's going to fill up with 3 snakes as soon as he attacks as well. And because of the Death Rattle ordering, he does have the potential to steal one of the 2/2 hyenas as well if he attacks into the Highmane.
Yep. So he has to go for a defensive... Oh, he's playing around Freezing Trap in this situation, and a second Snake Trap will kind of be devastating too.
And just a little smirk on RDU's face there. He knows he knows he's lost the lottery there on the secrets. Obviously, the play he made was pretty goddamn good against Freezing Trap because he would have had a decent chance at just stealing the Highmane. But now he has a drastically reduced chance, but he gets it. All right.
He gets it, but it's really awful anyway. There's a bow which deals 6 damage at least, and there's no additional taunt. So you have 3, 5, 7, 10 damage incoming next turn if you go for the most aggressive play, which is bow and hero power. But double Shredder seems like a better option, of course.
It does. The bright side here for RDU is that he does have consecutive heals here, and he doesn't need to use the Ancient of Laws to draw cards because he does already have double Savage Roar in his hand. So if he can get himself ahead on board using the 2 extra 5/5 bodies just to stabilize and heal himself for 5 each turn, he might be able to climb back into this game. But healing himself for 5 here, hero power takes him up to 16, and then at best he can take down one of the Shredders and hope that it's a 0 attack minion. So there'll be 5, 7 coming back at him with the hero power, and then 10, 12 in his opponent's hand. So
Abios has to go face this turn. With the double saboteur, he can threaten lethal really quickly, because that's basically 12 damage from hand if you have 2 minions on board, and that's enough to kill your opponent next turn.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Going face here does turn out to be game losing because now Tom just has lethal, but it's one of those situations in Hearthstone where making the best play loses you the game. And one of the skills in really getting better in Hearthstone is recognizing when you made the best play and lost the game because of it. And in those situations, you need to keep making that same best play over and over again.
Totally agree with you, and Adi would definitely made the same play. I'm sure of it, even like with the same outcome from Tom. So yeah, that was definitely the correct play. Because why would you attack with the Savannah into a Pilot Shredder just to spawn a new minion and gain nothing from that?
Right, you potentially only take 1 or 0 damage off the board if they get a nice roll on the Shredder, and you lose out on 6 damage to face and don't set up lethal for next turn. Like, it's just clearly better to attack face there. So even though the play was game losing, it was really well played from RDU to recognize that.
Well, that ridiculous knife juggler RNG was just kind of walking miracles there.
Yeah, it did level out a little bit with the high main steal afterwards, but obviously the odds of that were a 1 in 3 compared to the 1 in 125 with the knife juggler. So,
and then the flame talk totem from the Pilot Shredder.
Yeah,
if that minion will have any attack, it would decrease the amount of damage that RDU would get from those pesky 1/1 minions on board. That would mean he wouldn't be dead to the exact lethal in the last turn.
Sure. So now we see Tom here with the Tempo Mage. Tom was the guy, I was just about to say, Tom was the guy playing Fallen Hero in his Tempo Mage, which is very, very interesting to me. He's just going to go ahead and coin it out here, valuing it over the Sorcerer's Apprentice. Even though he has the potential 1 mana Flame Cannon in his hand, it doesn't do a great deal for him next turn. He's happy to just spend 2 mana on the Flame Cannon to remove this Aspirant. So
he also has a Arcane Blast in his deck.
Yes.
And that can... Imagine if he would have the Arcane Blast right now. Oh, he's trading, what?
He's just trading. So next turn, he's just relying on the 0 mana Flame Cannon to be a lot of tempo against a Shade of Naxxramas. That's the only thing I can take from this.
Yes.
So next turn, he just plays the second Sorcerer's Apprentice, and then Flame Cannon's a Shade for 0. It's a pretty decent amount of foresight from Tom. Flame Cannon... If you played a lot of this deck, you'll know how glorious it is to deal with shades, and he's going to get rewarded here as RDU does have a nice curve and has the shade to follow up.
That's really well played by Tom here.
He gets the 0 mana mirror image to come down as well. Nothing really to protect from here, but he chooses to generate it anyway. I might have seen him prefer to hold it just in case of something like a Flame Waker top deck or something like that. So.
You think so? I mean, he would like to stay on curve. And against the Druid, those 0/2 minions will most likely be on board every single turn, because even a swipe doesn't clear that, and there's a big difference. It's like, you can say that those mirror images are basically like a neutron and a half, because they're really pesky to deal with, and you have to lose 2 attacks from minions.
Right. My argument is that he would probably have got to play them next turn anyway, because the Druid was going into 4 mana. So, swipe on one of the Sorcerer's Apprentice or Keeper on one of the Sorcerer's Apprentice is the worst thing that's going to happen. And then his follow-up turn could have just been Spellslinger plus the mirror images anyway, but you have the added option of top decking the Flame Waker for additional value.
That's true, but a Innervate Force of Nature would be backbreaking on the double Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Sure. Okay. I mean, are you going to play around Innervate Force of Nature though? I don't know.
I mean, I think that was the play, right? Not correct, maybe, but that was the thing. That was the way of thinking from Tom.
Sure. Yeah. All right. I can get on board with that. But now, finally, we have the first kind of slow-ish turn here for Tom. Bestial Wrath from Spellslinger is not exactly ideal in a non-hunter deck.
You can still get a beast from Unstable Portal.
You can.
Like, to say King Crush or Tundra Rhino.
Yeah, that can definitely happen.
Or the Warhorse, right?
Yep.
5/3 minion, which can have taunt. Sorry, charge.
He chooses to trade in his 1 health minion there just to play around second swipe a little bit, and then he's gonna. I don't think it's about leaving the Druid of the Claw at 1 health this turn, because he probably doesn't want to be pinging it anyway. He wants to be playing one of the big cards in his hand. Although now the Spell Slinger might change that.
Yeah. And definitely will change a lot, because you still have 1 mirror image up. Oh, but actually it's great for both players. There's a healing touch for RDU, and there's a polymorph for any big threat, which will RDU play. And I bet this is the turn when you'll just play a turn 6. I mean, not turn 6. A 6-man and a Doctor Boom to pair it up with a Crackle to deal with a minion.
Yeah, seems like a pretty solid turn to me. The big game hunter coming into his hand is going to be pretty crucial as well to deal with the Doctor Boom if that comes down from Tom.
Oh, he doesn't trust the RNG.
Whoa. Okay.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's not maybe the correct line, but it's the safest line.
Is it too safe, though, is the question. Does he feel that far behind that he needs to make the safe play?
I think he might really fall behind if he doesn't kill the Spell Slinger with the Crackle. The odds are low, but at least you push your opponent to trade into the Emperor that turn.
Yeah, that's fair.
Oh, look at that.
Well, so the value of your big game hunter has been reduced a little bit since you're now only big game huntering a 7/3, but still.
So what about Outer Drake first? And you can leave the maybe you'll just draw a Wrath.
Yeah, what else does he want to play? Yeah, you almost certainly should have played the Outer Drake first here, right? I think even if you draw Wrath, it might be the play anyway, because what else are you going to big game hunter? I guess Ronin has come into the deck now, so yeah, there is some merit to holding on to big game hunter.
I don't like the healing touch at all this turn. There's no reason to play it. You're not dead at all.
You want to try and like bait your opponent into going more all in, yeah.
Exactly. If you're like getting kind of lower on damage, you can bait your opponent to play damage spells to your face. So you then counter that by playing the healing touch with like no way of your opponent, dealing with this.
I think from RDU's perspective, the way he's looking at the game was like, okay, I just win next turn with combo anyway, so let's just make this game as safe as possible this turn and just play around any ridiculous worlds where I do die from just straight up burn. Okay.
Yeah, maybe that makes sense. But I would like to sit on the Innervate, because it can create some weird scenarios, especially with one mana Savage Roar in your hand, right?
Yeah.
So, it's 1-1 between RDU and Tom. The Tempo Mage fails for the first time when it had a decent opener, I would say.
It did. It was really that one turn where he had nothing to do on turn 5. The Bestial Wrath came into his hand from the Spell Slinger and just didn't really give him any options. So he was just sat with basically a ping pass turn on turn 5, and then he was still denied being able to play his big stuff out on curve because he was forced to ping a Druid of the Claw the turn after on turn 6. And if you do slow down like that for one turn against a Druid, that's the turn where Druid will really look to punish you and start to flip the switch and be aggressive back against you. And that's exactly what RDU managed to do. So again, really well played by him.
And I will be jumping into the Tempo Mage versus Paladin matchup. And this is favoring usually the Tempo Mage solely because of those Flame Wakers.
Yeah, things like Flame Waker, Coin, Arcane Missiles, or something is just way too destructive. It can, even if it's a ball clear, it can be answered usually on curve by the True Silver. But at that point, it may have already got too much value, even if you can catch up with it. And we do see the Flame Waker being brought into Tom's opening hand here. But no Mana Worms, no Mad Scientist, nothing ready to play early. So he's going to fall a little bit behind early unless the Unstable Portal is kind to him here.
Let's say an Edwin Van Cleef. I'll be insane. But at the same time, don't you want to... No, you have to play it.
Yeah, I think
there's no reason to hold on it. Well,
sure. I mean,
that's decent, right?
It's basically an armor. Yeah, it's basically an armor smith that doesn't heal you.
Yeah, but it plays around abusive surgeons.
Yep. Yeah, totally reasonable. But yeah, generally, like the 1/4 body when you're playing Patron Warrior is a lot more important early than the armor gain. So having a 1/4 is pretty interesting. I'm surprised that he chose not to play it there. He might save it all the way into denying a mysterious challenger. Maybe is his thought process here. Since he can play it for free, no, he's just going to play it out this turn.
Oh, Commanding Shout. That's interesting interaction, and when both decks rely on minions heavily.
Right. Certainly is. So he's going to put the Weblord down to 3 health here using his weapon attack. So it looks like he is planning to chew through that at some point, maybe setting up a Consecrate for next turn. Because now he can Consecrate and just attack that again with the weapon and clear off the 3-4 with some of his tokens.
I found it interesting that Tom is not attacking into the 1/1s at all. I mean, you just played a Flame Waker. You want to push your opponent to use both Hunted Creepers to destroy the Flame Waker with the board, right? So in this situation, you will have more targets for a second Flame Waker.
Yeah.
It will work fine anyway, because RD will be popping both Hunted Creepers anyway.
Yeah.
Which I found interesting, because he had the option to keep one.
He did, yeah, but having just seen the Flame Waker played, maybe he's not scared of the second one. He knows Flame Waker.
I think when someone plays one Flame Waker with no effect, when you're playing a Spellslinger already, when you played already a Spellslinger, it just means telegraphs. I have a second one.
You think it's more likely they have it? Okay.
Yeah, it just means it's so reckless to play the first Flame Waker with no real effect on the board when it's the MVP card against Secret Paladin. I think it's just telegraphs.
We do know that. I mean, you mentioned the Spellslinger. He couldn't have played a Spellslinger that turn because the Nerubar Wedlord was in play. So, you know, maybe he did just value playing out a minion on curve. We know that Tom is that sort of player, but I kind of agree with you. Generally, when you see really powerful cards used for no value, like sometimes you'll just see like a Patron Warrior just put a Warsong Commander on the board against an aggressive deck, and it's like, well, he probably has the second one then, and he just doesn't need that first one.
Yep.
But he's going to choose not to go for the Flame Waker here, which I agree with. One Flame Waker and one Frostbolt isn't going to make too big of an impact on this board, and it's pretty susceptible to something like True Silver or Blessing of Kings. So yeah, I agree with him just drawing some more cards this turn and trying to stack up the resources he needs for the big Flame Waker clear with cheaper spells, especially something like Arcane Missiles.
Ooh, a tempo deadly shot. I found that interesting. I mean, it's really powerful with the Avenge and Competitive Spirit at the same time, because it basically denies a Flame Waker. Does it deny it? I mean, you get first the randomized damage from... No, you get it after the first spell. So if Tom plays Flame Waker, plays the commanding shot first, kills a minion, and then can follow it up with a Frostbolt to a Avenged minion, that's a pretty nice clear.
Yeah, that sounds pretty reasonable. Ooh,
he goes only for one spell.
Oh.
That's kind of far-fetched. And he hits twice to the face! That's even better for him. I mean, that's better for him, because he's not proccing the Avenge.
He didn't actually play Avenge that turn, did he? I think...
Oh, no, he didn't.
Oh, no, he did. No, he did. The Avenge
he did.
green.
Okay.
That was weird. From the other perspective, the Avenge was green in his hand, so it looked like it was playable, but once it switched back to his turn... And yeah, the Mysterious Challenger just comes down and more or less locks out the game here, right? How do you come from this?
Definitely. The low tip is just like just a bonus here. Yeah. I play low tip and I seal all those spells you have in your Tempo Mage, so you can make a comeback. You can rely on those spells maintaining board control after you play minions. So yeah, that's just sealing the deal.
And honestly, what could Tom even be looking at this turn? Because even if you had like a Fireball just to snipe down the 6/6, that doesn't help you because it just comes back as a 6/1, and you can ping it off, and that's your entire turn. And then one of the other minions has got buffed by Avenge in the meantime, so it's pretty difficult to make sort of any sort of dent in this board without having a board presence already.
And there's a Repentance also on board, so you have to play around that. So, yeah, you have to play the Fallen Hero, ping one of the 2/2s, but that leaves a Avenge on the board, which then has to hit the Spectral Spider, so you can play the Flame Cannon.
Yeah, so you can either take the 1-in-3 Flame Cannon here, or make this play, which is just freeze the biggest minion on the board and hope that that's good enough. I don't know if he's playing a Flame Strike, but this looks like a play that's playing to a top deck Flame Strike, and Loatheb is just going to put an end to any of that nonsense whatsoever.
Yeah, no shenanigans from Mage here. No value from minions. From spells. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. RDU takes a 2-1 lead over Tom, and he's left with Warrior, right? Yes.
Yep.
And Warrior will be facing a Mage deck and a Paladin deck, which now depends on few builds of patrons that we saw. If RDU plays Double Fear Warx, this puts a higher win ratio for the Warrior against the Mage, which might be really impactful. I would say the weapons might be really impactful because that's what you want to get against those minion-based decks.
Yep, for sure.
Especially when there's no Anoitrons, no Snow Chuggers to limit your usage of weapons.
Yep, Unstable Ghoul is another very important card. It's just the absolute best minion you can possibly proc Mirror Entity with, but I don't think we've actually seen Mirror Entities in Tom's deck. He might actually be playing the Secretless version, because I don't think we've seen Mad Scientist. He's playing the Fallen Heroes instead, which I guess is a direct replacement for the Mad Scientist.
There was no Mad Scientist either, so yeah. And RDU is playing the Dread Corsair version, so most likely one for your Warx.
Yeah, and probably means only one or no shield blocks as well. That tends to be that version.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what I find interesting, wow, Tree of Life. What I find interesting is that the fact that when people play Dread Corsair, they tend to cut the Fury Warx, when actually Dread Corsair has a synergy with Fury Warx.
It's weird, right? I mean, it is in your deck just for the insane tempo that you get when you Death Spite something. Or just for the additional burst and the additional free minion on board to buff up like a Frothing combo when you have second swing of Death Spite up. But yeah, it does seem slightly bizarre that you put this weapon synergy card in your deck and then you cut a weapon to make room for it. So
yeah, exactly. And now the Flame Lance is not exactly the type of spell you want to get against a patron. There's no target which is basically bigger than 4 HP in this deck, apart from Emperor, which is the biggest minion, and you can deal with that with almost everything, because even Flame Cannon deals with it easily, right?
Yep, yeah, Flame Cannon does okay against it. But if you don't have the Flame Cannon option, Flame Lance will be a nice little option for you to not have to spend a Fireball on it. At least you get to use a card that can't go face.
Look at that, Death Spite on turn 4 when he's already frozen for 1 turn. Still, nice turn just to drop a Dread Corsair for 0 mana and lock down some damage incoming, unless there will be a spell to deal with it.
Yep, I mean, he does have the Flame Lance, but Flame Lance for 4 mana on this thing does not look like what he wants to be doing. So it looks like this is just going to be a Flame Waker Arcane Intellect turn. And if that's the case, he probably wants to trade first, right?
Yes, definitely.
You're never going to hit 3 shots since there's only 2.
You have to trade anyway into this minion, so why would you lose damage, right? Oh, he goes super greedy.
Interesting.
That's very interesting, because imagine if there would be like double AoE damage right now. I mean, I would definitely use the Warsong command of Unstable Ghoul this turn. What do you think, Sopel?
Warsong Commander, Unstable Ghoul. Yeah, it looks reasonable. But you could do with the second charge of Deathbite being up. I don't think you're too worried. I mean, if everything does go wrong, you have the Tree of Life in your hand for an emergency reset at the end of the game. So I don't think you're too worried about taking a little bit of damage, and you can just go for a bit of value over time here. Just play the Unstable Ghoul. I'm surprised he's actually Whirlwinding here, but I guess it does let him use the Battle Rage. But honestly, I wouldn't have minded using the Unstable Ghoul just to get 1 damage on everything and just clearing it up with the Deathbite next turn.
Okay, sounds like a good plan also. He has to remember that he used 1 Armor Smith already, and that's very crucial when it comes to life gain, but he got the second one in the Battle Rage, so that kind of changes the whole plan. He still needs any AoE damage that can be dealt with, that can deal damage to the Armor Smith and some minions, let's say like patrons. Mirror Image is an important card against weapon class in general. They basically act like an Anoitron, which has to be dealt with 2 attacks from minions or just with 2 strikes with weapons, which steals a lot of tempo from the warrior. And that's That's the main strategy of the tempo mage in general. Is he forced to use the depth spider here? Might kinda. First Warsong Commander will be probably used just as a mean to deal with the with those pesky mirror images. So I don't blame him at all. He can clear the board here and just maintain board control. Oh, that's interesting. He will sacrifice the Taskmaster. Actually, that's way better than just Taskmastering your Armorsmith, what I'm talking about. I mean, your Armorsmith would be a free one, so it can be pink next turn. So it's definitely a better option to have the Armorsmith with full health on board than a free one Armorsmith and a 2/2 and a 2/2 Taskmaster.
Yeah, for sure. You just preserve the the long-term value of your Armorsmith, and you make it so that both of these cards now demand an actual card as an answer from your opponent. And Tom is just left here with a pretty miserable-looking hand. None of these cards really fit the purpose here. You know, Arcane Blast on the Warsong Commander, along with a ping, seems reasonable, but then you're starting to stack up the armor by not dealing with the Armorsmith. So. I don't know. Frost, you know, at the same time, like Frostbolting, you're giving up a lot of your reach. It's just he wanted some sort of minion here to play alongside a Frostbolt, and then he wouldn't feel so bad about the situation. But without like a decent minion to play on curve, it looks like he is just going to have to Frostbolt and pass.
Yeah, that feels really bad. Yeah. I mean, that's the problem with the deck that we talk about. Like it lacks. Sometimes it just lacks a convincing draw to seal the game, especially when you're lacking minions and just get those support spells. And Arcane Blast and Flame Lance are basically the same spell. They deal damage to minions. They are support spells.
Yeah, he would have loved to see that Mechanical Yeti last turn to be able to play it alongside the Frostbolt. So it comes a turn late here, but he does get to finally develop a minion on the board. It challenges the Armorsmith quite nicely, and we actually see in RDU's hand that there's no real answer for this Mechanical Yeti, so it might be able to start getting some aggression going.
Yeah, but at the same time, you have Tree of Life in your hand, so you don't necessarily worry about the damage incoming. Too bad for him that he has armor, because the armor is being dealt with first, so the Tree of Life has no effect on you losing the armor.
That's very true. The armor is actually reducing the overall value of the Tree of Life, but I think because of the Tree of Life security, he's kind of just happy to take 12 damage from this Mechanical Yeti here, if that's how it ends up. With the 2 weapon attacks and 1 turn of it potentially swinging for face. But I think Tom is forced to commit to one of these minions here. You really can't let that Acolyte compound cards here, right? If it starts to draw another card and then maybe the Battle Rage is top decked, then you know you're just going to get blown out of this game by card draw. So limiting the minions on your opponent's board and limiting the card draw is usually the way to go in this situation against Patron, because if you can card starve them, going as far as to use the Flame Lance here, I absolutely don't hate this play at all. Because if you can card starve a Patron in general, their top decks are pretty weak individually. You know, it's a combo deck, so they're looking to activate powerful chains between 2 or 3 cards in their hand. So if they're top decking individual cards, then they normally don't do too well.
Yep, that's very true. Now, are they using like a spot where he can play the Friendly Berserker without any kind of threat most of the time from Tom to deal with the Floating Berserker? And that's something you want to see almost every single time, because there's 1 or 2 from here already being played. There's only one card that can deal, 2 cards that can deal with the Floating Berserker right now. It's a Fireball or a second Frostbolt.
Right.
Or a Freezing Coolant from the part. Okay.
Sure.
And that's just, like not a permanent solution.
Yeah, and we definitely... Emperor, although it's a very, very powerful effect, not what you're looking for here. Only 1 card in hand, which is a 1-mana spare part, which is not a big deal to get discounted. And what you really needed that turn was a way to deal with the Frothing Berserker. Is he going to Tree of Life here?
I think he has to. The problem is he can't really trade with the Emperor, because if he trades with the Emperor, he has no more threats on board and in hand. And if he uses the Tree of Life, your minions are healed too.
That's very true.
And then you can... No, you can't use the Ah, that's so bad. You can't use the Inner Rage on the Warzone commander, so he will trade with the Emperor.
No, you're still a damage short. But yeah, I guess maintaining the Warsong commander is probably the most important part of this. Yeah. Okay. I mean, he does still reset the situation. He is still winning the race because he gets to attack after using the Tree of Life. So the onus is still on Tom to trade. And yeah, by healing up the Warsong commander, he then retains that on the board for if he top decks something like a Grim Patron, which will go really nicely with that Inner Rage in his hand.
And I just wanted to say that Tom might have, like a comeback in this game if you would top deck an Antonidas or Ronin, an example. Or even Dr. Boo. But in this situation, he has to trade the Emperor into the Floating Berserker, and then he has to play the just Man of him on board without anything. If RDU top decks a Patron, this is probably a game.
Yep, almost certainly will be. And this is kind of the double punish of playing these decks that have to play the early game to be aggressive in the early turns, but then they play the big threats later. The thing is, if you miss your early game, you kind of get punished twice, because not only do you have that early game for the early pressure, you're then much more likely to draw it later on instead of a big threat like an Antonidas or a Dr. B.
Yep. That's the problem with density of this deck and the value of the cards presented in it.
Yeah, miserable decision here for Tom. And wow, he's actually going to put a little bit of trust here in drawing something off the top of his deck next turn to deal with this Frothing Berserker, because I don't think RDU is trading here.
No way he's trading. The Emperor is just a 5/3 body, doesn't have necessarily any value at all. Oh, look at that.
Okay, now no way in hell do you trade. That's just setting up lethal next turn now.
Yep.
So your opponent is now forced to trade. You know that there is no one card that he's going to draw that's going to do the 27 necessary damage.
Oh.
25, sorry. Unstable Portal can perhaps do things, but it's going to have to be pretty spectacular. Yeah, that's not quite good.
Not quite good enough yet.
I
mean, you can't trade with both of the minions, because you can't use the Time Reminder to buff your Mana of them, but that's actually a short of damage anyway. And now if you play the Mukla...
Yeah, if you play the Mukla, you just give the Emperor a good trade into the
That's
Mukla
9 damage, the one not lethal.
I mean, Mukla, Time Rewinder, Mukla Concede looks like a fairly solid play.
I will have to play Mukla anyway. Without the Mukla, you are not doing anything this turn. And that sounds horrible, so you have to play it and hope that RDU will trade, which will not happen, of course, because RDU is not threatened by the board at all, and he just wants to deal enough damage to finish the game with a top deck weapon, an example.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom's thinking really hard, just going through various calculations of his outs and his opponent's outs if he plays Mukla, but I think he's ended up with the right conclusion here, that he just has to play it to win. And
Battle Rage. Oh wow, what a top deck.
So 2 draws to hit lethal here.
Nope.
So any weapon or a second Warsong commander, if there's still one left, would have been lethal that turn.
Yes.
But I guess just Inner Rage, Execute tidies up this board quite nicely. And then how do you feel about Acolyte and putting the bananas on the Acolyte? Because you don't really need the extra damage from the Warsong commander. From the Emperor.
Yeah, sorry, from the Emperor. I think you should just go face and deal damage.
Yeah.
And you can put then 1 banana on the Emperor and 1 banana on the Acolyte of Pain before the attack.
Okay, if you're trading, it's definitely better to put it on the Acolyte, though, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, which he does. But yeah, I mean, going face there and setting up lethal is perfectly viable as well. This is a thing I've talked about a lot on my stream, is like people have different styles of winning 1 games, and this is almost certainly a 1 game, and it's just a matter of, you know, picking a particular line. Either you're going to try and grind your opponent out, or you're just going to try and end the game quickly and reduce the amount of outs they get to see out of their deck. And yeah, RDU here seems to be going for the grindy. No, slam your own Acolyte.
Yeah, slam your Acolyte. Why you do that?
Well, he got the chain draws anyway. Yeah, let's just keep chaining card draw. Seems fine.
So you don't care. Yeah, you don't care about the Antonidas at all. Oh, maybe you do. I mean, in this situation, just go face and next turn just depths by the opponent to the depth, right?
Spellslinger Flame Strike. Nope. no such thing. He's going to try it one more time, but I think with 4 mana, there's not a great deal he can get that affects this board and keeps...
Frost Nova?
Frost Nova would have done the job. Unstable Portal!
Into Ignite, but not enough mana to use it. So, that's it. That wraps up the game. It was kind of silly ending, right?
Yeah.
This was like top deck wars between Patron and Tempo Mage, which usually Tempo Mage is an advantage because he has big hitting minions in his deck, and Patron relies on cards like Inner Rage, Whirlwinds, and Slams, which are not necessarily the best when you top deck them. I mean, Slam is not that bad, but Inner Rage and the Whirlwind are practically horrible as top decks. So Ardu takes the game 3-1, so he advances to the semifinals, but he's not playing against Orange because we had to skip one match and place it later into the schedule. So let me check the brackets, and if you want to check the brackets, type !bracket, which links you to the abiosgaming.com site of the tournament, when you can see a neatly made bracket with information about it. So RDU advances to the semifinal against a winner of a match between Kaldi and Stan Sivka. But before that, we'll see the game we were missing last time. So Firebird versus Cypher will be next. Sotul, anything to add from your side?
No, just a really fun series there. A lot of Tempo Mage shenanigans happening, which again seems to be the theme of the day so far. Lots of crazy Tempo Mage games, but again, RDU following up with his strong play yesterday, more strong play today. So looking forward to the next match, and we will be back after a quick 5-minute break.
Don't go anywhere.